Let's check out the first wash and then the leaks. But first, how about some backstory? Let's see how the dirt collected over the years. It all started when Dad was working on the engine. He did the head gasket, camshaft, some other things, but after fixing it, it wouldn't run more than a couple of minutes. So in 1964, parked it to come back later. So she sat for a while and sat and sat. This is the first photo I can find. Somewhere in the 70s. We had to move her sideways. We had to put more stuff in the garage. I guess Dad realized might have to sit a little bit longer, so he pushed her out for a few hours. This photo shows the paint already had some issues. Still see today. Somewhere in my college years, we got permission to pull her out and see what she looked like. So we unburied her and took a peek. And then she sat for a few more decades. By 2020, we were starting to think about the chore my siblings and I faced to empty the house. Finally, in 2022, with my siblings' blessings, my wife and I decided to take on the Roadster. It was time to pull her out, see what was hiding under all that stuff, to peel back decades of dirt, and to start learning about our first restoration project. Okay, first direct sunlight, 58 years. We're going to give it its first bath, 58 years. First time out of the garage, 58 years. It's going to be fun to manually push it up over that bump. And there we have the state that it's in. And here we go. We're going to start with the soft top, then we're going to use the foaming brush, and then we're going to see what happens. See how it goes. I need some work. Baby is going to need some work. At this point, I had no firm idea of what to expect. I hoped it would be like so many barn find videos that produce a shiny new car after a few hours of detailing. It looks so easy on YouTube. So I started with a water rinse to knock off all the loose stuff. Then I put down suds with Dawn dishwashing detergent and a Chemical Guys foam blaster. Then I scrubbed a bit with the sponge, rinse, another pass of suds and scrub, and voila, nice progress. Starting to show potential as a survivor driver. And now we have the best we can do after about an hour of Dawn, scrubbing with Dawn, pulling off what grime wants to come off, using some of the grime to kind of a bride down into the paint, kind of like a little bit of a compound formula. Really tight back here, that's just how it was. As you can see, boy does this thing need a lot of work, which we knew, but that's about what it is. And it's back in its resting position for the minute. It's a little bit shifted more this way. We had quite an interesting challenge. As you can see from here, the swell of the driveway, I mean of the garage, is like this. Then there's got a lip, and then it comes down into the driveway. And this driveway has these things that act quite a bit like wheel chocks. So we had to push it up over these divots in the pavement, especially this one. Look at that. It's a wheel chock if I ever saw one. Not flat at all. So that's the challenge. It took four of us to push it up in there and get it back in position. And that's the thing we had to climb up over, get it over that ridge. It took four of us to get it over that ridge, but we made it in. There we go. Okay, after wash, this is after the wash of the car, first wash in 58 years. The seat is pretty dry, but we see some moisture got in on the sills and it dampened the floor, so it's coming in from wherever it's coming in. Hard to say exactly. Is there a little bit of moisture back there? Not too surprising given how hard I was scrubbing. So yeah, it's got issues there and there. So, but there's definitely something came in from there. Something came in from wherever that's dribbling on down. We had suds down here. The sill plate, still see some suds back in there. Although that may have been from the rearview mirror being not in place, or it may be from some of this action up in here. These seals being less than good anymore. Look at those seams, still kind of wet. And we have engine bay got very sudsy, so maybe that's supposed to happen, isn't it? It's supposed to happen, so we'll just let that dry out for a bit. The spray there, some got into this. That's kind of interesting to me. It got into the door latch somehow. Got into the door latch. Okay, and we'll check the back and the side next. Okay, this is after the wash, and now we can imagine exactly how the battery compartment tends to rust out, because there are some suds that have made their way down after the wash, so they must get down in between the lid and into this compartment and just get down in there and soak and rust away. That's too bad. Now we know how that happens. That's interesting. You can see that even though I cleaned that drain out, well, maybe that's okay. Oh, and that's where that run rubber thing came from. That rubber thing goes right here, so I know where that is. That surfaced a little while ago. And on this side, because of this leak up here, even though I was careful with the water, there was some that got in on the seat, so you can see the seat got kind of soaked there a little bit, as did the floor. The floor got pretty soaked. I set the clock to 10 o'clock the other day, so now it's at 7, so the clock seems to be actually working. And now we can see the other side from here. So now then we'll check the trunk. Here we have seams that are showing their water still. And the dust, or dirt or grime or whatever that is. That's inside cleaning now on the plastic. Plastic seems to sit pretty durable, actually. Okay, well, we'll just go on here to the trunk. So now we see, unfortunately I had to go get the canvas all sopping wet, so it's leaking over there. Maybe that's where we were disturbing the seals for the inspection yesterday. Maybe not, I don't know. But we can see that there's just rust everywhere. And so there we have it. So I'm going to get that out to dry a little bit and let the lid stay up. And there we have it. This paint, by the way, is from it being painted. So somewhere before '64, when Dad parked it, it must have been painted. Here we can see the difference between the washed and non-washed. Here's another example of the paint. You can see the overspray on the rubber where the mask line is. So we know that it was painted at some point. There's other evidence of that as well. This is after its first wash in 50 years, and I noticed really want to get that water out of there. That's not good. I don't want to have that sitting all that time till it evaporates or rusts through first, whatever happens. I don't know. All right. Rust sitting, water sitting everywhere. Well, it was kind of hard to get the water out from down in there. It's very difficult. I sucked as much as I could with the wet vac, but then I noticed today, and yes indeed, there was still some cloggy stuff down in there. So I used this drain thing to snake out what I could without removing the brake booster there. And I used the dust cleaner and blew out this loose stuff, which I'll try and get with the wet vac again. See if I can't get out that loose stuff. And here we have, after the wash, we can see however it got down in there, it's just collected water and soaking the floorboard a little bit. And it's really soaking the area above the gas tank. And I think that's the gas tank view port. So I thought I'd open this up and just let it dry out. I'm going to try and clean the rust out a little bit before I let it cover up again. Oh my, yep, it got all the way back here. I guess that's the sender, isn't it? The sender's okay. Interesting, okay. Okay, I think I found where all this moisture was coming from. It looks like it started over here, and of course, that seems to be where it's coming from. If I'm not mistaken, that's evidence right there of where the water is coming in. So whatever is right up above there, that would be making sense as I squirted water underneath that pretty heavily, that seam. So it got down in there, and as we see, there's actually, if you look for it, evidence of it on the other side as well. Right up along above the, I presume, the spring mount. That's, you can see needing some attention in that corner, right below that part, right below. So somehow it gets its way down in there, and that's the scoop. But that didn't seem to gather and collect so much in that corner. The driver's side, however, seems worse. But at least it seems to have dried out pretty well since my treatment. And if we look at the spare, it looks pretty good down in there too. So drying routine worked well enough for now. I still can't figure out what they were planning to do, the designers of this thing, when it comes to draining this gutter. It just collects water, and the water just sits there and sits and sits and rusts and rusts. Rusts and rusts and sits and sits. Just doesn't make any sense to me. But at least I've dried it out after its wash, so it's not going to rust any more than it was rusting. That's what we have. Well, that whole washing sequence was pretty revealing. Learned a lot about the car, about the restoration project coming ahead. But at this point, the Roadster was pretty far away, and it was going to be a while, so had to put her back to the garage, let it sit for another few months. Stay tuned though, we'll continue this a little bit later when we do First Wash, Part 2, Soft Top Like New.